Okay, in section 7.2, we got introduced to the idea of a confidence interval. And we did all of our confidence intervals in that section about proportions or percentages. So the sample that we gathered said something like 7 out of 10 people prefer vanilla ice cream. Or 82 out of 160 people are going to vote Republican in the next election. So those are both proportions. Sometimes, though, we want to work with different types of data besides proportions. So in 7.3, we'll focus on doing confidence intervals about averages or means. And the beauty of section 7.3 is you already have all the mechanics and technique that you need for confidence intervals. We don't need to talk about any new theory. So let's basically just jump right into an example. This is the pulse rate data that I took from you at one point during class. And my question now just becomes, so let's get at the question there. Let's get the pen working. And say, what is the average pulse rate? Of SPC students. Okay. So your particular sample, the 38 of you that I got, your average was about 77. But maybe you all have abnormally low pulses or abnormally high. Or more importantly, let's just say that samples vary. And the next sample is going to be a little bit different. And none of the samples necessarily match the true population of all Skagit Valley College students. So let's get a confidence interval that says, hey, the true value is somewhere in between here and here, at least with 95% confidence or something. So notice there's 3 bits of information here. And these are the 3 bits that we're going to need when we get to StatDisk. So let me jot those down. Let's say the sample size. And keep in mind the notation, the abbreviation for that is N. We had a sample size of 38. We had a sample mean, and the symbol abbreviation for that is X bar. Had a sample mean of 77.3. And we had a sample standard deviation. SD is the abbreviation, but S is even more of an abbreviation. Sample standard deviation of 12.9. Since they didn't say otherwise, I'm going to assume that we're going with a 95% confidence level. Okay, so knowing all those bits, let's fire up StatDisk. So here's StatDisk. Let's see, we're not on proportions anymore, so let's go back to confidence intervals. And this time we're going to do mean. One sample again. And notice they ask for a little bit different information this time. They still want the confidence level, so we are sticking with 95%. They do want the sample size. We had 38 people in our sample. They want the sample mean. Those 38 people had an average pulse rate of 77.3. And the standard deviation was 12.9. Sample standard deviation. And then it says, if you happen to know the population standard deviation, type that in, which is a weird thing to know if you don't know the mean of the population. But we're never going to know that, basically. We'll never use this line here. So let's go ahead and evaluate. We've got a margin of error, a confidence interval and a margin of error. Confidence interval of 73.1 to 81.5. $83.5. Let's make sure that was right. Oh, 81.5. Sorry. So there's my confidence interval. I did round a little bit here. Again, I normally say for writing down a confidence interval, don't round, but I'm breaking my own rule. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, and let's go ahead and just for good practice, write a sentence and say the true average pulse rate of SVC students is between, and here again I might round off even a little bit more, or maybe just keep this. Either one's fine. I was going to round to whole numbers, but I'm going to keep this. You just want it to be accessible to your reader. Right? So I don't think 1 decimal place is too bad. It doesn't look too technical. It's between 73.1 beats per minute and 81.5 beats per minute. Okay, something like that. Okay, this is essentially all that your homework is going to ask you to do, except for the fact that sometimes your homework is just going to give you the raw data here. They're just going to give you the list of numbers, and they're not going to give you the count or the mean or the standard deviation. Of course, we know how to find all three of those things. And you could just do that separately on your own somewhere. But go back to StatDisk for a second. And let me point out that there's this other tab right here. So the one we were on said use statistics, which we did. And the other tab says use data. And if you click that, it just gives you a little data editor over here. And you can just type your data in. You'd say, I got 23, I got 42, I got 13, I got 56. You'd type your data in probably from the homework problem. And you would say, okay, there's my confidence level, 95. The column that has the data in it is column number 1. And I'll just go ahead and evaluate. And it says, hey, you've got a really huge margin of error because my sample size is so small, but and the true value of the mean is somewhere between here and here. And again, it's really huge because I didn't sample enough people. I only asked 4 people, so of course I'm not very confident in the average here. But anyway, I just wanted to point out that most of the homework problems will give you sample size, mean, and standard deviation. And there's a few that will just give you a list, and you'll just have to type them in here. And it will crunch the mean and standard deviation on its own and do all these things for you. All right, that should get you through those homework problems.